especially on Friday the 13th. Hopefully none of you are too superstitious. It's a beautiful day today. Happy to be joining you here today to talk about Fast Track. This is something that we're particularly excited about. We think this is an innovative way to provide students that are accelerating additional financial aid during the summer. So I'm going to go ahead. Some of these slides you may be familiar with, but we also provided a number of screenshots in this presentation today to give you more of a visual idea of what Fast Track is going to look like in ScholarTrack. As I've stated before, Fast Track provides qualified 21st century scholars and Franco-Bannon grant recipients with the option, it's not a requirement, it's an option to use additional state financial aid in their award year, typically during the summer, in exchange for using future state financial aid eligibility, additional eligibility in their award year. Because this is the first year that we are implementing Fast Track, the first term that these awards, these additional Fast Track awards can be used is summer 2018, which, believe it or not, is just right around the corner. It's hard to believe. To qualify for Fast Track, I want to touch base on the eligibility requirements. There are really three main pieces for a student to be able to use or to be offered a Fast Track award offer. The student must be using the Franco-Bannon grant or the 21st Century Scholarship this award year. So for them to qualify for a Fast Track award offer in summer of 2018, they must have used their Franco-Bannon grant or their 21st Century Scholarship in 17-18. Students also, to qualify for Fast Track, they must earn at least 30 credit hours in their award year. Now, this is 30 credit hours between fall 2017 and spring 2018. This is not 30 credit hours with the credit bank. The credit bank is not part of this equation for determining if the student can qualify for Fast Track in the summer. And of course, students must have state financial aid eligibility as well. There are a couple of different varieties of Fast Track, and we'll go ahead and talk about those in more detail in just a bit. But for students to use the full-time Fast Track Award, which provides 50% more state financial aid, students must have at least 50 eligibility units remaining. And to use the half-time Fast Track Award, which is 25% more financial aid, students must have 25 eligibility units remaining. Now, I know we have a wide variety of individuals on the call today. Just want to clarify some of the jargon, the financial aid jargon we're using here. When we're talking about eligibility units, we're talking about our way of measuring how many years of state financial aid a student has used. As you know, students are limited to 4 years of state financial aid. When a student uses a full year of state financial aid, they use 100 eligibility units. So 50 eligibility units is really effectively the same as using 1/2 year of state financial aid, and 25 eligibility units is the equivalent of using 1/4 of a year of state financial aid. As I've been stating, Fast Track will deduct additional state financial aid eligibility units. This isn't purely an increase in the award amounts. This is an increase in the award amounts in exchange for using future state financial aid eligibility. So if the student is using a half-time Fast Track award, that will deduct a little bit less future state financial aid eligibility than if the student is using a full-time Fast Track award. So the half-time, the student would use up to 125 eligibility units in that award year, and a full-time, a student would use 150 eligibility units. And I have, on the next slides, I have some screenshots to explain what that will look like in the system. So in this first slide, this is a student that is using a full-time Fast Track award. This is where the student is offered 50% more state financial aid. And you'll see here, this student at Ivy Tech, student used state financial aid in fall 17, spring 18, and then ultimately used the same amount during summer 2018. And you'll notice when you look at the state, at the eligibility units that are deducted, that this student, when they use their fast track award offer in the summer, it deducted an additional 50 eligibility units for a total of 150 eligibility units for this award year. This is different than what we were used to. Normally, you only see 100 units used in a year at most, but with Fast Track, this is how it will display in our system and how we'll track the students' eligibility usage. The next slide looks very similar. I did change the slide. And this is an example of a student that, instead of using the full-time, is using the half-time Fast Track. Here, the student is offered only 25% more state financial aid for the summer, and when they use that award, it's deducting an additional 25 eligibility units. So for students to qualify to use Fast Track, they must apply in ScholarTrack. We've mentioned that there is a simple application in ScholarTrack that we have created for students to indicate that they want to use the Fast Track award offer in the summer. And really, this is providing them just a brief explanation of what the implication of using Fast Track will be. That the student will be using future years of state financial aid eligibility for additional state financial aid now so they can accelerate. So this is new information. We have Fast Track. I know we've sent a message out over through GovDelivery to many of you on the call today, letting you know that Fast Track, the application, is live in the system. But I wanted to show you what that looks like for the student and provide you with a direct link that you can use in your communications with students. This is one that we'll be using as well, so that they can log in to ScholarTrack and directly complete our Fast Track application. It isn't a very complicated application, as you'll see in a couple of slides in the future when we get to that point, but that direct link will take them right to that application once they log into ScholarTrack. In addition to this application process that all students that want to use Fast Track will have to do, we also will be sharing with you eligibility and giving you sort of an update on a student's eligibility for Fast Track when a couple of situations occur. So when a student applies for Fast Track, we're definitely going to provide you with information on the files, as well as in the awards widget, to let you know that the student has applied for Fast Track and let you know if there's anything that's preventing us from providing that student with a Fast Track award offer. We are also, if a student has not yet applied for Fast Track, but we see that the student is offered a 21st Century Scholarship or a Franco-Bannon grant, and we see that that student has state financial aid eligibility remaining, and we see that that student has earned 30 credit hours in their award year, we will then also display to you their Fast Track eligibility and let you know if they qualify. If the student has not yet submitted a Fast Track application, it will tell you that, but it will tell you if there's something that is more fundamental that's preventing them from receiving Fast Track, like the student hasn't earned 30 credit hours, or the student does not have enough state financial aid eligibility remaining. I think I may try to address some of these questions as I go along as well. Fast Track isn't just a one-time award. It is something that will need to be adopted each year for the Franco-Bannon grant. But the intention is that this is something that will continue, that it isn't just a one-time award. It is, for our Franco-Bannon grant, it is considered a performance incentive, and the performance incentives are adopted by the Commission for Higher Education on an annual basis, along with the rest of the Franco-Bannon grant schedule of awards. All right, so I've told you a couple of different ways when we will actually start sharing with you information about a student's eligibility for Fast Track, but A picture is worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to go ahead and show you those two scenarios. So the first one is when a student is offered a Franco-Bannon grant or a 21st Century Scholarship. They have state financial aid eligibility remaining, and the student just earned 30 credit hours. So when that occurs, we will immediately begin to display to you what you see on the screen in the awards widget and similar information on the files as well. You'll notice that the student has not yet submitted the fast track application. So when you see this, you will need to make certain that the student, to qualify for fast track, if this is the only thing that you see that's preventing them from receiving the award, to go into Scholar Track, use that direct link, and to apply to fast track. And then the other way that you'll see this information is when a student has gone ahead and actually submitted a fast track application in Scholar Track. In this example, the student has gone ahead and submitted that application, indicating that they are interested in receiving fast track, but they have not yet met credit completion. This could simply be that the student has not yet earned 30 credit hours. Maybe spring semester credit hours have not yet been reported in Scholar Track, which is what I'd expect today, since your spring semesters are still winding down. But once those credit hours are reported, then you would this award will then update. Nicole Sharp had a question: will a school receive an email that a student has applied, or will he have to download a file each day? You won't be receiving emails, so this is something that you would be included in your files. As I've been mentioning, there are two different varieties of fast track. There's a half-time fast track award amount and a full-time fast track award amount. And that amount is determined by what the student selects when they apply for fast track in Scholar Track. The half-time amount will provide the student with 25% more state financial aid, and it will deduct 25 eligibility units when it's used. The full-time will provide the student with 50% more state financial aid and will deduct 50 eligibility units when it's used. When I'm saying 25% more and I'm saying 50% more, if the student is offered a 21st Century Scholarship, it'll provide them 25% more of their annual award amount. When I'm talking about the Franco-Bannon grant, that is also true, but I'm including both the base award as well as any student performance incentives. So it's 25% or 50% more of the total Franco-Bannon grant amount, which includes those base awards and those performance incentives. Kayla Appleberry had a question about that application status saying applied and status says not submitted. We actually have noticed that too. It's kind of a technical thing. It isn't displaying quite like that to the student, which is a good thing. The fact that it says application status applied, that just means that Scholar Track has recognized that the student has earned their 30 credit hours, has state financial aid eligibility remaining, and is offered 21st and Franco-Bannon. That means there's something in Fast Track, about Fast Track in our Scholar Track database so that we can start sending you information about it. The status not submitted, that's what you want to look at to determine if the student still needs to go into Scholar Track and complete that application. Speaking of the application, I want to quickly provide you with some screenshots and let you know how easy the application is in Scholar Track. It really is a three-step process. Once they go ahead, the student goes into Scholar Track. They will need to create an account if they don't already have one. That's fairly simple to do. As many of you know, with some of our older financial aid software like eStudent, or if you've had some familiarity with working with students to create accounts today, they will need their social security number, date of birth, and a working email address, and that will be all they will need to create a Scholar Track account. Once they have that account and log in, they can click that link. It will take them to the Fast Track application. It does provide the student with an overview of the Fast Track award offer. They will have to acknowledge that they understand some of those implications. That's step one. Step two, the student will decide between that half-time or full-time fast track options. I'll talk about what happens if the student selects the wrong one, but that the default for the award will be based off of what the student selects here in the fast track application. So if the student indicates full-time, it will attempt to make a full-time fast track award, and if they select half-time, it will attempt to make a half-time fast track award. Another question that we have is, does fast track impact the accelerated award amount when a student earns 39 credit hours? It's completely separate from the accelerated award. So a student could use fast track once they hit 30, and then by using fast track and earning 39 potentially credit hours, that next award year, when they renew, they could still qualify for the accelerated schedule. So it won't impact the accelerated schedule. Similarly, if the accelerated schedule is part of their current award, as part of their current Franco-Bannon grant, when we give them 25 or 50% more state financial aid for fast track, it will take into consideration that accelerated award as part of the total Franco-Bannon grant award amount. Step 3 of the application, I showed you step 1 and 2. Step 3, the student just reviews the answers that they provided, and they can go back in ScholarTrack at any time to edit those changes. And then if everything looks good, they submit the application. So let's switch gears a little bit. You saw what the application looks like and how you can direct students to the fast track application in ScholarTrack. But for you, as I believe largely college users that are supporting students with fast track, I want to go ahead and show you how this will appear. I think if you've noticed the updated file layouts, you'll see that fast track will appear as a separate award type, not just on your files, but also on the awards widget when you're looking at all of the students' awards. So you won't find it underneath that 21st Century Scholarship or that Franco-Bannon grant. You'll find it under its own fast track award type. But fundamentally, this is an additional 21st Century Scholarship or an additional Franco-Bannon grant that we're providing to the student. And we know that some colleges, to be able to implement this new award offer, some of you we know are treating it as a completely new award type, and some of you are just treating it as an additional 21st or Franco-Bannon grant. Either way will work, and we want to provide you with an ability to make that work with the data that we're providing you on the award. So you'll still be able to see, even though it is separately branded as fast track, you'll still be able to see if it's based off of a Franco-Bannon grant or a 21st Century Scholarship. Let me go ahead and show you what that looks like when you view the award on the awards widget. So as you'll see, it is separate, it's a separate award type. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice it is branded separately as fast track. And then in the awards widget, you'll notice that once the award is made, it will tell you the award type that it's based on. So in this case, a Franco-Bannon grant, and it will also show you the enrollment status that the student has indicated. And then for a full-time award, you'll see that it simply will state full-time instead of half-time. If this were a 21st, it would state 21st for the award type instead of the Franco-Bannon grant. So I think the names of the different types of fast track that we're using to some extent is self-explanatory, but for a student to use the fast track award, they do have to meet certain enrollment requirements when they're using it in that academic term. If the student is using a half-time fast track award, the student must be enrolled at least half-time at your institution. However, they may enroll full-time. In many cases, it would be probably more beneficial for the student to use the full-time fast track award, but sometimes the student may not feel comfortable using that much future state financial aid eligibility, or maybe they don't have enough future state financial aid eligibility to create and to use a full-time fast track award. So we don't want to put that restriction on the halftime award. So the student must be at least half-time to use a halftime award, but there's nothing preventing the student from using a halftime fast track award while they're enrolled full-time. For the full-time fast track award, the student must be enrolled full-time. We have a question here from Steve Martino about if a student completes 30 credit hours, so it becomes fast track eligible, but they haven't fully used their Franco-Bannon or 21st. How will this impact the fast track award as we usually can award the remaining amount in the summer? That's a great question. I have a couple of slides later on that will show exactly that, but the student will be able to use both that remaining balance potentially and then begin using that fast track award in the same term, so in summer. So I'll go ahead and cover that in just a moment. So you're probably thinking, and we're sort of trying to get ahead of this as well, because the award, the type of award that the fast track is based on is determined by how the student answers the fast track application. So if they indicate halftime on that application, it will make a halftime award. If they indicate full-time, it will make a full-time award. However, we know that sometimes that student may select an answer that isn't going to match up with how they're enrolling in the summer. Maybe plans have changed, or they just answered the application incorrectly. So we are giving you an ability to fix that enrollment status, which will update the award. And I wanted to go through that and explain to you how you do it and what steps you would need to take to do that. So if you have a student that has a full-time fast track award, they've indicated full-time when they completed the application, but they're not enrolled full-time at your institution, you have the ability to just go into ScholarTrack and change that to halftime. That's something that you can do. You likely would want to acknowledge that and let the student know and communicate with them, but you don't need to receive that permission from the student, that explicit acknowledgement from the student before you make that change, since they've already indicated full-time, so reducing it to halftime so that they can actually take advantage of fast track is something that you can do. Now, if the reverse is happening, so if the student has indicated on their application that they would like a halftime fast track award, but the student ends up being enrolled full-time during the summer, you do have an ability to change the status to full-time. However, we do ask that you explain that situation to the student, that they make the request of you to make that change, and that they acknowledge that they understand that impact on their future state aid eligibility. Because in this scenario, they actually would be using more of their future state financial aid eligibility. So we want to make certain that they understand what that implication will be. Let me go ahead and show you how you can change that enrollment status. It's very straightforward. Here is the fast track award. This is a full-time fast track award. And let's say in this instance that the student is actually enrolled only half-time during the summer. If you go up to the right-hand corner of the award in the awards widget and you click the settings button, this will give you an ability to change that enrollment status. The next screen you'll see, it will ask you, it will prompt you if you'd like to change that enrollment status to halftime. If you say yes, then you'll see that the award will update. And you'll notice that the amounts will update as well. If that doesn't happen automatically, you can always just click that recalculate button in the bottom right-hand corner. The same will work in reverse. So if you click that settings button again, once the award is halftime, it will give you a similar prompt and allow you to change the award to full-time. All right, I think this is now where we begin to cover the question that Steve Martino brought up about if a student earns 30 credit hours, doesn't use their full Franco-Bannon grant or 21st Century Scholarship during the fall and spring, so they have some remaining eligibility or some remaining balance on their annual award, their Franco-Bannon or their 21st. How does that work with fast track during the summer? So in this example that I'm going to show you, between fall 2017 and spring 2018, the student has used only 95% of their annual award. So they have 5% of their annual award still remaining going into summer 2018. The simple explanation is that you can use both that remaining balance as well as that fast track award offer potentially in the same term in summer 2018. You just need to use that remaining balance first before you use the fast track award offer. We want you to take advantage of the annual award and fully exhaust that before you begin to deduct additional state financial aid eligibility for the student. So let me give you that example. Here is a student with a Franco-Bannon grant between fall and spring semesters. They have claimed 95% of the annual award. So there's a remaining balance on that annual award going into summer 2018. You'll see that you are permitted to claim both fast track and Franco-Bannon grant in the same term. So here you'll see that there's a claim for both that fast track award as well as the remaining balance of the Franco-Bannon grant in the same term, summer 2018. However, you do need to claim that remaining balance on the Franco-Bannon grant before you claim any of the fast track award offer. Sarah Monday asked if the remaining balance plus fast track cannot go over tuition costs, correct? And that's right. So fast track is because at the end of the day, they really are Franco-Bannon grants and 21st century scholarships. The same rules apply in terms of what charges they can be applied to. So it's tuition and regularly assessed fees. Yeah, let me go ahead and go to the next slide, and I think that will cover some of the rest of it. What level of permission? I'll go ahead and address that question in a second as well. Oh, actually, the next slide, I think Sarah covers this question. Fast track can only be used for tuition and regularly assessed fees. So like the Franco-Bannon and 21st, it can only be used for tuition and regularly assessed fees. The order of aid application is the same for fast track as it is for Franco-Bannon and 21st, but just like I mentioned before, you have to use that Franco-Bannon and 21st annual award, any remaining balance, and make sure that's fully exhausted before you can go ahead and apply the fast track award offer. Michael Griffin asks, is it possible for a 21st century scholar to use less than 100% of their scholarship? That is possible at some institutions, depending on their enrollment. So it does occur. It may not occur as frequently at institutions that, well, private institutions, if the tuition charges are significantly more than that 21st amount at the private institutions. And also it happens more frequently where institutions are not on banded tuition. The question that Daniel Wagner is passing me a question that I think I missed earlier in the chat conversation was on who can actually do the override on fast track. We're going to go ahead and test that right now, and at the end of the presentation we'll let you know. I believe it is the college support users can also perform this function, but we're going to go ahead and verify that and let you know what that permission level is. So the fast track award offers, as I think some of the screenshots have shown, they run parallel to that Franco-Bannon grant or 21st century scholarship. So an example here is if a student has a Franco-Bannon grant that runs from the beginning of fall semester, August 21st, 2017. It runs for a full year and expires on August 20th, 2018. And the student earns 15 credit hours in the fall and 15 credit hours in the spring. The term where they've hit their 30 credit hours, that will determine when that fast track award offer starts. So in this case, if the student reaches 30 credit hours at the end of spring 2018, which in this case ends on May the 5th, the student's fast track award offer will begin the next day and run through the end of the student's annual award expiration date, which is August 20th. So you can see that they do run in parallel. There is a little overlap between that Franco-Bannon and fast track award to cover some of the remaining balance situations that we just talked about, that Steve Martino at IU brought up. But they will expire and end at the same time. That will always be in sync. So we have another question that came in. I think we have two more questions. Marcia Osman asked, is CHE planning to make Franco-Bannon and 21st recipients aware of fast track availability? And if so, when and how? So yes, next week we are going to be planning some additional communication to students. Looking, of course, we don't always have the same data that you do, so you may have a better idea of which students that you should reach out to that you believe are eligible for fast track or could benefit from it. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at students that are using Franco-Bannon in 21st, and based off of some of the credit completion data that you've reported for fall semester, we're going to go ahead and pull together a list of students that we believe could benefit, and we're going to go ahead and send that communication out starting next week. And then Samuel Hughes mentions or asks, sorry if I missed this, but if the student is only half-time during summer and has left over Franco-Bannon 21st from first or second semester, can we still claim the remaining amount prior? Yes, you can claim both fast track and that annual award, that Franco-Bannon or 21st in the same term if there's that remaining balance, but you must make certain that you apply the Franco-Bannon and 21st first and that you exhaust that award offer before you use any of the fast track award offer in that term. Laura Ping asked, can we get a copy of what we send to the students? Absolutely. We're still drafting that, but we will absolutely send that to you and let you know what that is when we provide it or when we send it out to the students. But it will include that direct application link. We're going to be directing them to Scholar Track and explaining that it starts with them completing the application. So yeah, when we get some of that crafted, we'll go ahead and send that out to you as well so that you don't have to completely reinvent the wheel. I think I didn't miss any questions, so I'll keep going. All right, I actually have on my last slide, I wanted to give you a timeline of fast track moving forward. We are actually making fast track award offers today in Scholar Track. We have turned that on. It is available for you you can start to see students completing their applications in Scholar Track, and you'll also be able, once you start reporting spring credit hours, you'll be able to actually see real fast track award offers. So I think right now we are really waiting on spring semester to end and for you to report that credit completion data before we make actual fast track award offers. But that process is turned on. We're just waiting for the data to arrive. As I mentioned, we're going to be emailing Franco-Bannon 21st recipients that we believe that can benefit from fast track next week. And you can begin to reach out to students at any time. And we'll go ahead and share with you what we send out. I don't think that if we both send the message that it would overlap. So I think the more the merrier when it comes to reaching out to these students about this new opportunity. So Connie Fidanza asked a really good question. I actually took this slide out of, this is one I previously presented on, if the student is a spring starter. So we've talked about fast track applying for summer, and that's the most common scenario I think we're going to find. But in a situation where a student is a spring starter, and so they use their Franco-Bannon in spring 2018, and maybe they earn 15 credit hours in spring 2018. And then they go in the summer and they earn another 15 credit hours, spring 2018, and let's say they go full time and they're out of their annual award. They've fully exhausted their annual award. it's possible for that fast track award offer to be created for fall 2018 for that spring starter. So it is, well, the common scenario is going to be fall and spring. They earn 30 and then they use that fast track during the summer. It does work with the student's annual award and when they begin. So if they are a spring starter and they want to accelerate, they can still take advantage of this for fall semester. Will we get separate reconciliation dates for fast track awards? So no, you won't receive separate reconciliation dates for fast track. The fast track award offers will, just like all of your award offers, it's going to be based not on the award, but it will be based on your academic term. So all your award offers, you'd want to reconcile those awards for summer 2018. Typically, if your summer 18 term ends in July, then your reconciliation deadline is going to be August 31st. And if your summer term ends in August, it will be September the 30th. For whatever reason, if you have a few students, certainly not all, you want to make certain you get as many students as possible reconciled before those reconciliation deadlines. But if you do have some that's just sort of slipped through the cracks, and you were not able to get the students reconciled by that deadline, just send us those students and those claims to College FA, and we'll be happy to assist you with getting those claims inserted for those students. In terms of on the awards, you may be also referring to the expiration date of the awards and when the awards expire, and the fast track awards will expire on the same date as the annual award, so that Franco-Bannon grant or that 21st annual award. Okay, I think we're caught up on questions, and now is a great time to ask for additional questions. First one that has come in is from Laura. Has the state aid manual been updated with fast track information? It has not yet. So that is something that we are in the process of updating. Our goal is to get you sort of, instead of doing piecemeal updates to the financial aid manual, we're going to go ahead and try to consolidate all of those annually if we can, and provide that to you before June 30th for the start of the next fiscal year. Oh yeah, I think Christina Lucas asked a question about when we send out that verbiage or that we send those notifications to students about fast track, if we can get that verbiage a day or so ahead of time. Yes, we'll try to provide you as much lead time as possible before we send it. And of course, when we send those communications, we're going to try to make it so that it doesn't, we're trying to be as sensitive to your operations as possible. We certainly understand when if a message is sent that isn't clear, how that can impact us here, and we know that it can also impact you, so we'll be careful with that. But yes, we'll try to get that to you as soon as we can. And can we get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation? Yes. So the PowerPoint, we'll post the PowerPoint to our website. And then I know that this webinar is being recorded. And so we'll work with Ivy Tech to figure out where we can post this. If it's a link that we send out to, I think probably the ISPA listserv, as well as we'll send a message to all the ScholarTrack users as well. Sarah Monday asks, the fast track data that we see in the files before we send credit completion are only for students who have completed an application, and then will it later change to be something that can actually be claimed? And the answer is yes. Essentially, that is the case. You will see fast track data for students when they hit 30 credit hours, or if they apply. And if you haven't reported your credit completion data yet, then with, I'm sure, a very rare exception, the reason that data would be in the files would be because the student has applied for fast track. So once you get that credit completion data reported and they become eligible for fast track, we have it turned on So it will recalculate once we get that credit completion data, and it should provide you then with an actual fast track award offer that you'd be able to claim. I don't know if I missed any additional questions there. Nope. Keep the questions coming. These are really good questions. All right. Well, I don't see any additional questions right now, and I'm starting to see some users are leaving. So I just want to thank all of you for attending today's Fast Track webinar. We are ending a little bit early today. Please, if you have additional questions, we are here to help you to support this new award. So feel free to send us an email. I think most of you know where to send it now, but send it to collegefa at che.in.gov, and we're happy to support you during this process. One final question, and for those, we'll make certain to send out all of these questions and provide you with answers to them so that no one's missing any of these. But Kathy Nickens is asking, just wanted to confirm that there is no enrollment requirement when using the remaining balance, but there is when the fast track is used, right? And that is correct. So yeah, using the remaining balance during the summer for that Franco-Bannon or 21st would likely fall under one of those summer exceptions where we do not, where the student doesn't have that enrollment requirement. Refer to the financial aid manual for that chart for all of those summer exceptions, but you're absolutely right on that remaining balance. But then fast track does have the enrollment requirement. Those summer exceptions do not apply to fast track. Thank you, Catherine. All right, well, everybody, hopefully you enjoy the beautiful weather and have a great weekend.